Have you ever wanted to see a movie where a cop from the future time travels back into the past, jumping into the body of one of his own ancestors to fight a man who has psychic powers, also traveled into the past into one of his own ancestors, whose powers enable him to turn people into zombie-like creatures that are under his complete control to rampage against whoever he desires? Produced by a studio known for low-budget movies. If so, the movie Trancers just might be for you. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name's Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the movie Trancers, which was made by Full Moon Entertainment, or Full Moon Studios. And, so for those of you who don't know, or who weren't alive at the time, Full Moon Entertainment, who I think is actually still in existence. I know they have an app of some kind. They made a number of fairly low budget, mostly like sci-fi horror type movies. This movie, Trancers, for instance, has 4 sequels. There are 5 of these movies. The main actor also plays another character in what I believe is also a Full Moon Entertainment movie, where he plays a character, Doll Man, who I think is from space, and like finds out that like everything on Earth is like wildly larger than him. The Puppet Master series, which used to only have 5 entries, but I think has several more now. The movie Robot Jocks, I believe, was a Full Moon Entertainment movie. I could be mistaken on that, but I believe it was. The movie Arena, I believe, was released under Full Moon Entertainment. And I want to say the Subspecies movies are also Full Moon Entertainment movies. So, there's a lot of like, if you went to a video store in the 80s, you definitely saw their movies floating around. And they were kind of pioneers in like the whole special features thing, because VHS tapes typically just had the movie, and you might have like it might have some trailers on in front of it. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a really long time since I watched a movie on VHS that came from a video store. And which, by the way, for those of you that don't know, there actually were different types, unless they lied to me at the video store. There were different types of VHS tapes. Like the ones you'd buy at a video store cost significantly more. They were like $80 to $100 because they could survive several viewings, because it's a physical thing. Like one you'd buy from like Walmart was like $20, give or take, at the time. And, it was only rated to withstand, from what I was told, so I could be mistaken, and this is something I was told, 30 years ago in a video store. They could withstand between like 30 and 50 viewings, before you had to worry about like the tape breaking or something like that, or to begin to degrade, because repeated like viewings through it could degrade the magnetic quality of the tape. Whereas these were rated to withstand like 100 or more viewings, because of being rented out frequently. So you would basically just have the movie. You'd occasionally have a movie that had like some kind of forward from the director, like some version of the Star Wars movies has some commentary by George Lucas in front of it, things like that. Well, Full Moon Entertainment had previews for their other movies, but far enough into the 80s and early 90s, they would have previews for the other movies in the series you were watching. So like if you watched, I think Puppet Master 3 had trailers for Puppet Master 4 and 5, because they were filming them already, and they already had enough material to throw together a trailer. And they'd have like a behind the scenes of the movie that you were watching, because the movie's like an hour and a half. So there's room on the tape. Because that was another thing. There's obviously a physical limit. So movies like Titanic actually had 2 tapes. You'd have to, at a certain point, you'd have to stop the movie and put the other tape in. And I would say I'd have to double check, but I think Lord of the Rings came out at a point where VHS tapes were still really being made. So those would probably be double tape movies because of their length. So yeah, so you had things like that. But like I said, Full Moon was kind of a pioneer in the whole special features thing. And for some movies, it was on in front of it. For some movies, it was on after it. But it was interesting. You had cast and crew interviews, production stuff, the kind of thing that eventually they would sell as like special features on DVDs and Blu-rays. And just other movies just didn't have that. It was an interesting feature. So that made them kind of stand out. And again, like I said, they're lower budget movies. That doesn't mean they look like crap. Most of them look decent, especially for the decades they're made in. And it's a lot of practical effects for the most part. Like I think some of the Puppet Master stuff by Part 5 might be CG, but it's like really early CG or like green screen kind of stuff, as far as the puppets moving. Because they're not, while they are puppets, they're not in like the traditional string puppets, I'm fairly certain, as far as how they moved. Yeah, so you had a lot of stuff like this. Now, most of the effects are just gore effects. And they usually didn't go super heavy into that. I don't think the Subspecies movies involves vampires, and I'm trying to remember because I watched them about a year and a half ago, and I don't think anything ever got really gruesome, and nothing gets super gruesome here in Trancers. Like, when the people are transformed into the zombies, they're basically just like yellow skin, kind of patchy, and eyes look a little different, but that's basically it. They're not like flesh-eating zombies. They're more like the guy's like, okay, now attack, and they either mindlessly attack or pick up weapons or whatever. So, and some of them, whenever they get killed, they kind of just go up in a puff of flame or smoke or something. So, there's not a lot of effects to work with now. Like, and then of course all the future scenes, the future Los Angeles is underwater. So clearly there's like some model work where like the tops of the buildings are above the ocean level, or it might be a matte painting or something. And then the futuristic areas are, it's neon lights and things like that, just kind of backlighting, and let's make it as nondescript but kind of futuristic, but we can tell like you bought all this stuff in a store in the 80s somewhere. Like we have seen these things in real places. You've just put them together in an interesting way, kind of stuff. So that's how you have your low budget time travel movie. And of course there's no special effects for the time travel. They're literally just like injected with something that sends them into one of their ancestors in the past, and the way it's undone is an injection in the past, and they're able to bring stuff with them. So the main character's given a couple doses, one to use on the bad guy, one to use on himself, and he, so it's low budget. This is kind of similar to Scanners, where you have people like with powers and abilities and everything, but they're expressed in such a way that you can do it with a cheap budget. And so, because like the main guy, he's nothing by himself. He's just a guy as far as the villain, and like the main character can't be turned because he's too strong-willed. It's kind of like the Force, and most of the other characters at the end are like that too. So like the guy can't really do anything. He has to resort to like normal weapons, and well, the other guy's a cop. He's quite a bit better at these kind of things. So you have things like that. But yeah, kind of gone on enough about Full Moon Entertainment. That's probably a whole other video right there. Could talk about some of those movies I've seen, like the Puppet Master series. How through the first two, Andre Toulon is clearly a villain, but then in the third one, it makes you sympathetic to him, and then the fourth and fifth one, it's like his descendant or something. So it's weird. Anyway, so who all do we have in this one? Our main character is played by Tim Thomerson. His name's Jack Death in the movie, and yes, several characters are even like, seriously, Jack Death, like that's a real name. And I think it's spelled D-E-T-H. But he's the cop in the future, and he winds up in one of his ancestors' bodies back in the past, who conveniently looks just like him. So, like I said, Tim Thomerson. Now, he's been in several things, got a lot of credits to his name. He's got 4 more Trancers movies to his name, and Doll Man and Doll Man versus the Demonic Toy. So he's got like 7 movies under Full Moon Entertainment. Then the thing I probably best recognize him from is the dad of Adrian Pasdar's character in Near Dark, which is a vampire movie directed by, I think, Catherine Bigelow, if I remember right. And it has like several members of the cast of Aliens in it. Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, and I cannot remember the woman's name, but it's the woman that played Vasquez. And the interesting side note is not Hispanic. But it's an interesting vampire movie that I should definitely do a video on. I don't think I have yet. So that'll say that for another day. But he's the main character's dad in that. He is also in the movie Volunteers, where he's a soldier, Marine, or something. That's a Tom Hanks movie where he joins the Peace Corps. John Candy's in it. I think it's pretty funny. Then, I don't remember who exactly played in Who's Harry Crumb, but I saw him on the cast list. I think he's the boyfriend of one of the characters, and he like cuts the brake line in a car that Harry ends up getting into. Someone else is supposed to get into it, but Harry ends up getting into it. John Candy's character. And anyway, he's in numerous other things, but he's our main character, and I think it does a decent job. But then also we have Helen Hunt in what has to be one of her earlier roles here. This is definitely way before, what was it, Mad About You, with Paul Reiser, another Aliens alumni, and definitely before Twister. So yeah, this is pretty early on for her. And looking at the others, she's in at least the second one, and I think some of the others. So since I'm probably going to wind up watching them, like, it's nice to see someone who was at least a moderately successful star here. And other than that, the only other person, and I should have written his name down here, is the guy. He's in a lot of movies, but I mainly remember him from being in Seinfeld. He was George Costanza's boss at the New York Yankees, not Steinbrenner, but the guy between Steinbrenner and Costanza. And he eventually gets traded to another organization or something. It's the job George is trying to get, and this guy ends up getting it. But yeah, he's in a lot of other things, but that's the thing I remember. He's in this movie for like 2 minutes. He's part of the council in the future. He's like, hey, protect my ancestor back in the past. And Jack loses the picture with the address of the guy, and so the other guy's able to find him and take him out. And he just kind of disappears. So yeah, that's like, there's a few other people like looking through the credits. I guess there's a guy who plays Santa Claus in a mall who trances out and attacks Jack. He was the bartender in the beginning of Terminator 2, whenever Arnold goes in, beats the guy up, takes his clothes, and as he's walking out, he's the guy with the shotgun. It's like, I can't let you take the man's wheels, son. And Arnold just comes up, takes the gun and his sunglasses. And I only know that because that was his picture for the IMDb page, so don't know his name offhand. But yeah, so that's who we've got for this. So it's a lot of no names. Even the villain didn't have a whole lot of credits to his name, and I don't remember what his name was. So yeah, so I've kind of talked about the plot, but essentially it's in the future. This the main bad guy has psychic powers and can turn people into like his psychic slaves, which has a visible change to their features, and they're basically like sleeper agents until they activate. And there were, from the sounds of things, I think there were others like him. And Jack has hunted down most of his followers and has killed the other people like him. He's the last one. And he's trying to find him, then another cop is like, oh, you've gone too far, Jack, like you're being reassigned and this, that, and the other. And so he just quits, and then they come and find him like, well, we found out he's alive, so we need you. And he comes to the council room, and one of the members is already gone, and well, he finds out that the other guy's in the past and already killed that guy's ancestor. So they're going to send him back to take this guy out. Like, they've got the other guy's body there, and he's like, why the hell do you still have his body? And he's like, well, because we're going to bring him here and stand trial. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And pulls his gun out and blasts his body and burns it to ash. And he's like, he's not coming back. And they're like, what did you do? He's like, well, screw that asshole. Like, I'm not going back just to risk all this. Like, you want to do it my way, or you can find somebody else. So he goes back and wakes up in the body of his ancestor, who just had a fling with Helen Hunt's character in the night. And she's like, oh, did you mean what you said last night? And he's like, what was that? Kind of that awkward conversation. He's very obviously a different person at this point. And she's like, oh man, like, when are they going to part ways? She's like, did I give you my phone number? He's like, I don't think so. She's like, good. But they kind of get thrown back together, and he gives her the spiel about what's happening, which she does not believe, obviously, because it sounds like hogwash. And the problem is, the bad guy, his ancestor is a cop, like a detective. So he's using the police force to track down these other people, and he takes one of them out, trying to find the other ancestor. And then he realizes that Helen Hunt is Jack Death's other ancestor. So he just, makes a beeline to go straight for her. And then you have your final confrontation. And like I said, Jack's only got like 2 doses of the stuff, and one of them breaks. So he uses the other one on the bad guy, and she's like, well, you're stuck back here. I was like, well, this is nicer than the future, so why not? Plus, maybe someone won't interrupt and send me back to the future while we're sleeping together this time. So he's kind of stuck back there, but obviously that changes because, again, there's 4 sequels, and the people from the future can send stuff back in the past. They do have one kind of sci-fi thing that he does end up using twice. It's a watch, and what the hell did they call it? Well, anyway, I'm not going to remember it. It's he hits a button and time slows down. He has 10 seconds where, for the rest of the world, 1 second will pass. And it's a single-use thing, so he uses it pretty early on once he goes back to the past to save Helen Hunt from getting shot. And then they take off. She's like, well, what the hell happened? Because she was standing in an alleyway, then all of a sudden she's in a car, and he explains it to her, and she's like, well, the bad guy was right there. Why don't you kill him? He's like, well, I had a choice, save you or kill him. That's when she realizes that, he's falling for her. So, by the way, I think there's definitely like a grandfather paradox thing's going to happen here. And then at the end of the movie, because he goes back to the future at one point, because another cop comes back and injects him with the stuff to send him back to the future, and they're like, well, we're ending all this. You didn't save one of the council members. And he tells the other council member, like, look, I'm going to save your ancestor. I'm the only shot you got. Send me back in the game, boss. So they send him back, and they send him another watch. And he uses it at the end of the movie, again, to save Helen Hunt, because she gets thrown off a rooftop. It gives him time to get downstairs and save her. Which, by the way, that's a really long 10 seconds to run down like 3 flights of stairs and out the front door. And not be like thoroughly winded. So he saves her, and then, uses the one shot on the bad guy, which just sends him into oblivion because he doesn't have a body to return to. And then he's just kind of stuck back there in the past. And that's kind of where the movie ends. So, yeah. Overall, it's an entertaining movie. I mean, we're not talking high art here. The action's okay. The acting is serviceable. There's not like a bunch of overacting. Like, the villain isn't like super hammy or anything, which, occasionally works. Like Michael Ironside in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, the first one. While editing this, I realized I said Michael Ironside, and I meant to say Jeremy Irons. So Michael Ironside is not in the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Jeremy Irons is. So, anyway, back to the video. And, it occasionally works. But I don't know if it would have worked here or not. might have added some flavor to the bad guy, but also wouldn't have made sense since he was supposed to be a cop, and he's already giving people orders like, hey, shoot these clearly unarmed people. And the cop's like, okay. I mean, I know it's LA police in the 1980s, but like, come on now. They weren't that bad. I don't think. Maybe. I don't know. I only went to LA once in the 80s. So, they, 87, I think. Yeah. Saw a guy sleeping on a bench right in front of the Man's Chinese Theater. And a car shaped like a shoe that's actually, I think, in the beginning of the movie, The Golden Child, where Eddie Murphy's driving around. I actually saw that. And, yeah, some other things. I should do a video talking about that sometime. Anyway, totally sidetracking here. Yeah, so that's where the movie ends, and I can only assume the sequels involve more evil psychics, and at least one of them apparently involves a parallel dimension or something, so looks like they really kind of lose the plot around part 4. We'll see, though. Maybe. So I caught this on Amazon Prime, but it looks like it's on some others too. So I'm gonna link to Prime, and there'll be links to the physical copies if you're looking for them. But yeah, I would say overall the movie's probably realistically it's probably about a 6.5. It's entertaining, nothing really to write home about, but you know, you want an hour and a half to kill, and you want to see how you can do a high stakes but low budget kind of movie similar to Scanners, but with probably an even lower budget, but not looking cheap. You know, I want to emphasize that this is a low budget movie, but the movie doesn't look cheap, except for like one shot with a bullet moving slowly. But other than that, you know, it's they figured out, you know, ways to do everything economically, and so it's interesting from like a movie making perspective, in my opinion, you know, how to do things like that. But yeah, you've got an hour and a half to kill. Like, there's definitely worse things you could watch, and I don't want to make it like sound like it's a terrible movie, because it's not. You know, I'll tell you if it's a terrible movie, and I don't think it was. I think the sequels are going to go wildly off the rails once I get into them. But like this movie, you know, it's okay. You know, interesting time travel flick. There were a lot of time travel movies back in the 80s. I saw someone had a video about that. I really should watch it. There was definitely like an obsession with time travel in the 80s. But yeah. Anyway, I'd say overall it's worth checking out if you've got the time. I'll let you know on the sequels. But yeah, that's about all I've got to say on this one. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Have you seen this movie before? Do you plan on maybe watching this movie? Has my roaring endorsement somehow convinced you to buy a VHS copy of it and enjoy it the way it was meant to be, and beautiful 4:3 aspect ratio? I don't even know if this movie was ever released in theaters. I have to double check. I don't know if many Full Moon movies were released in theaters. I'll check on that if I ever do a video on Full Moon stuff. But yeah, like I said, just let me know down in the comments what you think. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed what you're watching here and want to see more content like this. If you haven't seen my other videos, I do watch a lot of movies, and I do seek out like the weirder corners of the movie business, the lesser known things. I mean, I watch well-known movies too, like, you know, like obviously I love Star Wars, talk about it all the time on here, or movies like Stargate here, you know, like the series, you know, things like that. But I do also watch like the really weird movies that people are just like, where did you even find this? Thinking it's like something that fell out of like a crack from another dimension or something. And I'm pretty sure that's actually the plot to a few movies I've seen. But anyway, so if you want to see more content like that, you know, check out my other reviews on here. But sharing and commenting are the things that help us grow the channel the most. Was appreciated, and obviously appreciate subscribers. So that's about all I've got to say here. So that's all I've got, folks. So I'll see you later. And just in the meantime, remember, keep those movies weird.